This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, and it is time for my weekly review of Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter, the points I find interesting in it. WWE Hall of Famer Terry Funk, who just turned 77 last week, has been moved into an assisted living home, and Terry Funk's official Twitter account posted, quote, "Yes, Mr. Funk is currently receiving residential care for his multiple health issues, which do affect his mind as well as the rest of his body. As you can imagine, some days are better than others," end quote. SummerSlam, August 21st at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas has over 38,000 tickets out right now between the sold and comp tickets. Jonathan Fatu, who's 35, also known as Jimmy Uso, was arrested in Pensacola, Florida at 10:35 p.m. July 5th, charged with a DUI. He had been one of the main characters on SmackDown, working with Roman Reigns. This has been his third DUI arrest. The previous times resulted in him being taken off the air for extended periods of time. WWE has not made any statement about his arrest so far. Regarding the XFL that The Rock and his ex-wife are going to be running, it was supposed to start in 2022. Now it's going to be 2023. And the proposed collaboration with the CFL, which I do think would have helped the CFL, is off the table right now. AEW this week did a 0.33 rating. NXT did a 0.18 rating for their Great American Bash special. Raw set an all-time low viewership record, 0.41. SmackDown did a 0.46, and it was their lowest viewership on Fox, according to reports. Aleister Black from WWE debuted in AEW as Malachi Black on this week's Dynamite show. Texas independent wrestler Moonshine Mantell made his AEW debut this week as well, losing in 3 minutes to Lance Archer. Impact did its all-time access rating low, 0.02 last week, with Kenny Omega on the show, so obviously he's not helping it a great deal. One thing I don't understand is you can have fans at events in Tennessee, and Impact has had fans on some tapings in the building where they have tapings. I think they only had they were bragging about it, but it was like only a 50 or 100 person sellout in that studio, but I don't understand why they continue to run events with no fans, unless, of course, just people aren't buying tickets. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe just they're allowed to have fans, but nobody wants to buy a ticket. In other wrestling news, UK wrestling star Cyanide Sid Cooper passed away this past week. Chris Youngblood passed away on July 7th at 55 years old. Michael Elgin, who has not been around wrestling after a woman wrestler accused him of sending dick pictures, has spoken up about mental health issues that he has related to suicide. Well, I think almost everyone has thought about ending it at one point or another. I know during my days with my medical battles and the treatments I had to go through for a while there wasn't a day that passed by I didn't think about it. But you don't see me trying to seek attention for it. UFC has some news. CM Punk's second UFC loss to Mike Jackson in 2018 has been changed to a no contest since Jackson tested positive for marijuana. Not that that could actually help you in a fight. If anything, it's going to delay your reaction time, make you more lethargic. That just shows that CM Punk, and again, Mike Jackson hasn't fought since this fight. And his previous fight was a loss before fighting CM Punk. So that just goes to show you he was smoking weed before the fight or ingesting it, and he still destroyed Punk in that battle. Jake Hager wants to fight Fedor Emelianenko on October 23rd in Moscow. Meltzer points out that Hager's last fight was a very close decision, which could have gone either way, according to many reports. That was against Brandon Caton, who was a relative unknown. And it's brought up here that all of his fights have been against unknowns. However, I do think that wouldn't be a bad fight for Bellator to run, just because Jake is a former WWE champion and is still in AEW. But Josh Barnett also wants that fight. And he's been quoted as saying, quote, "Having more followers doesn't mean anything in terms of merit or skill in the ring. You're a green boy who fights rookies. You don't even belong in this conversation. Stick to AEW and getting in a few fights before you eventually lose and quit." End quote. That's Barnett talking about Jake Hager, or Hager. I don't know how you pronounce it. Now, of course, having more followers doesn't mean anything in terms of merit or skill, but as we've seen with the Paul brothers, it does equal buy rates, and it is the fight business. You would, in theory, want to have a fight that's going to draw the most money. I would, anyways, personally, as a promoter. I'd rather have the highest money drawing fight than the best technical match. Same as in professional wrestling. Tyson Fury and a bunch of members of his camp tested positive for COVID, so his fight with Deontay Wilder has been postponed. It was supposed to happen July 24th in Las Vegas. And the Anderson Silva versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight that happened on June 19th only had between 15 and 20,000 buys between television and pay-per-view streaming. So not a huge number of buys. That's pretty much it. Not a huge news week. I'll go through some of your questions. David Rush, does Davey Boy Smith's family still have the bulldog they took on the road with him in the 80s? Well, that would be the oldest dog I've ever heard of if it was alive in the 80s and is still alive in 2021. So that's kind of a funny question. Ravens fan, I'm doing okay. Hanging out with my lovely dog here, Piper, who's also my co-host. Alan Kesselman wants me to do a shoot in an assisted living facility with Terry Funk. His daughter doesn't want him doing any interviews. When I was in Texas, Kevin Sullivan looked into it for me, and that was the answer I got. They don't want him doing any interviews. Harris, what's the point of AEW signing all these amazing wrestlers when none of them want to put anyone over? I honestly don't know. The only real wrestlers I'm familiar with in AEW are Cody Rhodes and Chris Jericho. I know Mark Henry and Big Show, but they don't wrestle. Sting wrestles. I know Sting. All the other ones, I mean, I've heard of Aleister Black in the news and all this, but I don't know anything about him. Wendell is saying Ontario is – you're telling me some news. I hope you're right, that maybe it's going to open up from this horrible lockdown we're still on, which is maybe why I'm feeling fucking depressed. I'm sick of being on lockdown. July 16th instead of July 26th. I think Ontario is the only place in North America where they're still preventing us from working out in the gym. Yet yesterday, I had to drive to get some supplements, and I noticed that there's rugby games going on. So you can play rugby, but you can't work out. That's just absolute bullshit. Hello, Scott. SWF is a lifelong atheist, but is still praying for Terry Funk. He is a true legend. I will agree that. Hello, Mark. Alan. Kane is the mayor of a city in Tennessee. Maybe he could help fans get fans to attend Impact. I think Kane is still affiliated with WWE, so don't expect him to help Impact out. I don't think Kane has ever been in Impact. And I believe Kane is the mayor of Knoxville, and Impact runs their tapings in Nashville, where I was a couple of years ago. That's where I interviewed Dutch Mantel and Jerry Jarrett. Gorilla Glue Stew is saying that Ontario is reopening next Friday. That would be great. Baseball trade, Mr. Wonderful. Well, I got the message from his son. It could be weeks before Mr. Wonderful goes. Jake says because gyms are shut, he's smoking weed all day. People are not in shape. Like it's sad that they're keeping gyms closed here. It's absolutely sad. Because it's very important not only for physical health, but mental health. John, why are all these WWE wrestlers going to AEW? WWE is cutting a lot of the fat from their league because they want to be more profitable, and they have way too many wrestlers under contract. So they're getting released, and then AEW is signing people WWE doesn't want anymore. Carlos, watch the start of this for information on that. Gorilla Glue mentions the cost of home workout equipment in Ontario because of the gyms being shut so long. I know that all too well. I've spent over $5,000 on home workout equipment since the beginning of this lockdown, and I work at home too. I don't want to work out at home. I miss my friends at the gym. I love going to the gym. So I can't wait for it to open again. Mark says WWE cuts the fat, AEW renders it into lard. Danny McQuinn. Okay, so thanks for the correction, Danny. Kane's wrestling school is in Knoxville with Tom Pritchard, but Kane is actually the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. There you go. Wendell, what do I squat or bench? Well, because I'm only doing home workouts, I couldn't tell you because I don't have enough weights to max out. Harris X brings up that maybe my slaps to Terry Funk set him in a downward spiral. Very possible. Ralph, why are they waiting so long to open the gyms here? I don't know. It's a load of bullshit. I'm devastated to live here. I can't believe that this country and this province is being so stupid. But we can't even vote the people out because they're delaying the election until they've deemed COVID is over. Danny, as far as supplements, I really just take vitamins. I drink egg whites as much as possible rather than protein, although I am drinking a protein drink right now that also has greens in it. And, Piper hears something. Uh-oh. I'm going to see what Piper's barking at down there. Have a good afternoon. If there's more news tonight.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video